Chancellor. His message, no extra cash, all increases to be funded by employers from existing budgets. The surprise announcement was a new deal for top civil servants, their pay ceiling to go up to $150,000. That's 25% more than the highest salary in Whitehall at present, increases now to be performance-related. Nurses, on the other hand, get a minimum of just 1% plus local top-ups. Health unions say it's an insult. Some nurses will get just £100 extra per year.
It just cannot be fair. The government are saying to these top people, look, we need you, and they're saying to nursing staff and others, we don't really need you.
The armed forces have fared slightly better. For most ranks, there'll be an average of 2.6%, although some top brass will get more than 3%. But the deal for teachers, 2.7%, has provoked the bitterest protest. There have been threats of cuts, with local authorities saying they can't afford it. And the Education Secretary acknowledged employers will face awkward decisions.
It is a tough settlement. What is more, it varies across the country. Some authorities have more problems than others. That I fully accept. But the review body makes the point, and I agree, that it should be affordable.
But she faces continued opposition, possibly industrial action in schools.
Well, I think we've seen in the last few days a very strong campaign begun by parents and governors. And we should join that campaign, work with parents and governors to make clear to the government that it must put more money into schools.
In the Commons, Labour drew comparisons with private sector bosses' pay.
Isn't the most telling fact of this week that at the same time as the government will do nothing about the head of a privatised utility, awarding himself 70 times as much as a teacher, 100 times as much as a nurse, that at the same time the Cabinet today devises a strategy that may see teachers sacked and classroom sizes rising?
Well, it's an extremely good soundbite, but it isn't true.
And at a time when they're highlighting the issue of top people's pay, the opposition are now hoping to exploit what they claim is the contrasting treatment of Whitehall mandarins and thousands of other public sector workers.
A new survey by the non-political Joseph Rowntree Foundation says the gap between rich and poor in Britain has grown rapidly in the past 15 years. According to the Rowntree survey, in 1979, when the average wage was £60 a week, the poorest 10% in Britain earned 73% of the average, whereas the richest tenth earned 310%, just over 3 times the average. By 1991, when the average wage was £180, the poorest tenth of society earned just 61% of that amount, while the top tenth earned 508%, more than 5 times the average income. Shuttle Discovery today before preparing for his re-entry to Earth. Officials at the NASA Space Agency say they're delighted with his historic spacewalk. Michael Foale was outside for 4.5 hours before the piercing cold of space drove him and his American colleague back in early. Bill Neely reports from Mission Control in Houston.
You've been hanging around for long enough doing nothing. It's time to go out and do some work.
A moment to savour, the highlight of Michael Foale's career and that of his colleague Bernard Harris.
Are you stable?
The airlock opened and Foale took his first small step in space carefully, feeling his way upside down along the edge of the dark side of the shuttle.
Which ocean are we over, I mean? Just south of Africa.
The crew inside guiding Foale to the end of a robot arm. There, tethered only by the foot, he stood still in space to test how quickly he got cold.
It's getting pretty cold and frosty now.
The outside temperature was 6 times colder than the North Pole, but beneath them, a stunning view of Earth.
That's gorgeous. Just gorgeous. Just gorgeous.
As the Earth blocked the sun's heat, Foale exercised to keep warm.
Hey, don't wiggle too much. Yeah, we're off there.
He maneuvered a satellite the size and on Earth the weight of a car.
Michael, you have to go very slow. Be careful.
But after handling it, it was clear Foale was suffering from the cold.
Can't do work with my hands like this.
He was reluctant to take the satellite again.
It's like putting your fingers into a very cold freezer.
We understand.
After discussion, NASA scrapped part of Foale's mission and the shuttle was turned to face the sun and the Earth again.
We're recording some pretty awesome pictures inside here.
Michael, you are looking very nice. You look good too, Vladimir.
Foale and Harris are paving the way for the building of an international space station, where astronauts may have to spend long periods cold and carry large objects. NASA now knows the spacesuits will have to be redesigned.
Oh, Bernard, this is better than the virtual reality sim. It is.
For 4 hours, Foale dangled in an airless, soundless abyss. Oxygen pumped into his suit to keep him alive. He walked around the Earth 3 times. Then it was time to return inside. Below, in London, his parents had been watching every moment.
Oh, I'm very glad that it went as well as it did. It was truncated a bit, but they found out a great deal about that suit and indeed how to move large masses. And Michael looked and sounded happy.
That's good.
After untangling himself, Michael Foale's historic walk ended. A giant leap for him, but a small step for NASA, which learns a little more from every mission. Foale's next major job is not without risk either, a return to Earth